welcome to my channel. Today I'm transforming a pair of jeans that I actually ripped into a corset top. So instead of throwing these away into the garbage, I am transforming them into a really nice looking top. So if you want to see how I'm gonna accomplish that, then continue watching. So first I am placing all of my pattern pieces onto my fabric to make sure I actually have enough fabric for this project. Then I am pinning everything down in place and checking the back to make sure I'm not using fabric that has the hole in it. Once that's done, I'm moving over to actually cutting down. And you see me cutting actually only 2 layers of fabric, and that is because I'm using a lining that is different from my jean fabric, because 2 layers of jean fabric would be too heavy for this project, so my lining is actually a little bit lighter. This is this beige color right there, and by the magic of editing, there you go. And now I'm starting to assemble all of my pieces together. Not all of them actually, just the first few pieces. So there you go. And I'm doing that for both the lining and the outer shell. Now I'm sewing everything that needs to be sewed for this step, just using a straight stitch. Now I'm cutting the excess seam allowance. And these pieces need to be assembled together before I can move on to the next step. So once again, I do the lining as well as the outer shell. So this is what those look like assembled. So I'm gonna pin those together as well as the side and back pieces. And this is what the complete outer shell and the complete lining look finished. So now I am placing them right sides together and making sure to align the seams because I have a tendency of not doing my seam allowances like equal for all of my pieces, so making sure those are all aligned, and I'm leaving one opening before I sew all around my top. And here I'm gonna show you or try to show you how to do an angle when sewing, so we can do really nice corners or wider angles, but they still look very crisp. So I'm sewing until I reach the point, and I'm hand sewing with the wheel on the side of the sewing machine to make sure I'm exactly where I need to be. Then I'm leaving the needle in the fabric, raising the foot and turning, and then lowering the foot to continue sewing. And I'm gonna finish all around the piece now. And this is what it looks like assembled, and I'm gonna flip this inside out, always making sure I trim the excess fabric from the seam allowances. And I'm gonna use my finger to make sure that the angles are again very sharp angles. Now I'm gonna iron the project, but I'm making sure that it's as presentable as possible before continuing to ironing it down. And now I'm closing the remaining opening with a hand stitch. I'm using a ladder stitch, which makes the thread invisible. And now it's time to make buttonholes. So I actually need to sew according to these settings. So the one-step buttonhole setting on my sewing machine, as well as this foot. And what it's gonna do basically is sew a box, a rectangle box in my fabric, and then I can cut a hole in it, and it's gonna stay. So this is what it looks like, and I'm just cutting the excess thread. Now to cut the hole in the little boxes, I am going to use a seam ripper to poke first in it, and then very carefully I'm gonna kind of draw a line to break the fabric apart. And I'm doing this for all of the holes. I'm gonna use a shoelace to lace the back. I thought it just looked nice with a shoelace with the jean fabric. I think it's a nice combination. this is what the final result looks like. I think it turned out so well, so nice, and I'm very happy with the result.